growing up, The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit were my first love when it came to literature. I fell in love with the books, the world, the characters, the story, just everything to do with it. When I attended riding camp as a 10 and 11-year-old, when we would go on trail rides, I would pretend in my head that we were being followed by the 9 wraiths of Mordor when they were riding, before they were riding the Nazgul, when they rode the horses. I was pretending that they were following us every time we, would practice galloping and everything. I would, in my head, oh, they're coming after us, we gotta run. And I absolutely adored that story. And as I grew up and started to learn more about the world, especially history and the war, World War I, World War II, of which both Tolkien was a veteran, and you can tell as you grow older and you read, especially The Return of the King, just the sheer sadness of when you come home and you realize that nothing will be the same for you. And see, I'm tearing up just now because it's so goddamn true and poignant, and it's just like there's nobody that could write it like that hasn't served. Like, if you haven't served and literally been in a trench and watched your best friends die, which he did, you can't write a book like that. Even if it's a fantasy book that has elves and orcs and wizards and fucking rings of fucking power that are forged in volcanoes. You can't write an allegory of war like that unless you've been in it. And today we're going to go over a video by an awesome creator, Nerdrotic, and I will definitely be posting the link to the original video in the description. But he is going to go over why the crazy people hate Lord of the Rings. And the reason why I stopped watching the Rings of Power series and why I stopped doing the videos covering the Rings of Power series is because these crazy people have seized an amazing property, an amazing intellectual property full of just absolutely transferable messages. And they've ruined it because, well, they have to read race and gender and God knows what else into it. But Nerdrotic is going to take us through some of this garbage. And we're going to react to it. Here we go. I've had it pulled up here. And I'm going to just show you what he has discovered here. And this video is called Why They Hate the Lord of the Rings.
Never before has any voice uttered the words of the tongue here in Imladris.
Do not ask your pardon, Master Elrond, for the black speech of Mordor may yet be heard in every corner of the West.
And see, that is how you do Lord of the Rings. Like, as pissed off as I got with Peter Jackson for not including the raising of the Shire in The Return of the King, and as pissed off as I got at him for turning The Hobbit into 3 movies and adding a love triangle between Legolas, who shouldn't even be in the story, and another elf, and Keely. Like, what the fuck? No. Stop that. But this is how you do Lord of the Rings. I don't know what the fuck they were doing with Rings of Power.
Burgerotic.com.
Hi, Gavanya, and you over 1 million men and women of the West and the 40% who haven't subscribed yet. Not a year goes by without some hack writer from the Access Media or hackademic attacking our beloved Professor John Ronald Reuel Tolkien. And this year is no different. From the Telegraph, students shall not pass unless they accept Lord of the Rings is offensive.
I'm sorry, what? Students shall not pass unless they accept that Lord of the Rings is offensive. In what way is it offensive other than to tell you, hey guys, just so you know, war really fucking sucks. And maybe before we go into war and kill everybody and ruin our lives, maybe we should have a good fucking reason.
University course suggests Tolkien's treatment of evil characters follows a tradition of anti-African antipathy. That's AAA to you and me. Generally, academics and activists, and quite frankly, I don't know the difference between the two, so we'll just call them people who don't like to have fun and people who are no fun to be around, hate Lord of the Rings. And
I agree. I think that these people just honestly, first of all, don't understand what a good world-building book is, because these people would rather read fucking Game of Thrones, where all there is gratuitous wiener flopping and frickin' just... oh my god, he literally... George R.R. Martin read Lord of the Rings and went, you know what this needs? Less, like, actual moral character building and arcing, and more gratuitous murder and sex. That's what it needs. It needs to be a soap opera. That's what Lord of the Rings needs to be. Not a wonderful tale of, you know, intricate world building and balladeering and language building. And no, we just need it to be a soap opera. Fucking retards.
And the attacks on Tolkien go back to the times when he was alive. But in recent times, it was made demonstrably worse by Amazon. You know, the company that started out selling books when its owner, Jeff Bezos, decided he wanted to make his own Game of Thrones and bought Lord of the Rings, which is funny because right now, Game of Thrones, along with Harry Potter, DC Comics, and the core part of Lord of the Rings that Jeff Bezos actually wants is potentially for sale.
Oh no. Oh, no, you can't sell that part of... No! They've already sold off, like, the stuff that he... Like, he didn't even have to write. The stuff that he wrote out of love. The stuff that he created in his retirement years. He's like, you know what? Let's just write some short stories. We'll write the Silmarillion. We'll write, you know, some, we'll write the Tales of Numenor. You know, we'll do all of that, and I'll even bring my son into it, and we'll have a great time. And then Amazon's like, gimme.
Well, anyway, Jeff Bezos is the Rings of Power, you know, the billion-dollar disaster and failure that's basically a vanity project right now, gave the activists absolutely everything they wanted. Unfortunately, there weren't enough of them to watch, but it did stir the conversation back up again. 5 years ago, I made a video called They Are Coming for Lord of the Rings, and it was a simple warning that the same thing we've seen happen to Star Wars, Star Trek, and Doctor Who was going to happen to the Professor's secondary world, because the activists have been circling this mythology for a long time, and once they sunk their teeth into it with the help of their Hollywood corporate overlords, if anyone didn't like it, well, they were the problem. Particularly the readers of Tolkien who wanted to see the Professor's work adapted authentically. And in their infinite wisdom, the creators of the show decided to make the fans of Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, The Silmarillion, and all the works of Professor Tolkien the enemy.
Yeah, we legitimately were just horrible, racist, homophobic, sexist pieces of garbage who just didn't understand the whole point of making Galadriel into this horrible she-devil who would simply just fall for Sauron, who, by the way, for people who are sitting there going, oh, Tolkien only made evil people dark-skinned. Fucking Sauron was white. You dumb fuck.
Responding to the backlash they absolutely knew they were going to get, Rings of Power producer and Bad Reboot reject Lindsay Weber famously said, "It felt only natural to us that an adaptation of Tolkien's work would reflect what the world actually looks like."
Go back to the book, go back to the book, go back to the book.
False.
Wicked, tricksy, false. I agree, Smeagol.
Completely ignoring the fact that Amazon paid $250 million to get access to a built-in audience that really enjoyed a world meticulously built by J.R.R. Tolkien and what he thought it actually looked like. Showrunners J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay also responding to the backlash called the fans patently evil, to Dwarf of Color actress Sophia Numvetti stating that her role and the Rings of Power are a necessary redress of balance in Tolkien.
No, they're not. Why do we need a dwarf of color? A dwarf of color. You know, I was listening to a George Carlin audio clip the other day, and he's right. You know, the whole people of color thing is just as bad as colored people. Like, why are we allowing people to say dwarf of color or color, like colored dwarf sounds just as bad as dwarf of color? What is wrong?
Everyone was cast because they were the absolute best person for the role, and to be part of a redress of balance within this world is an honor.
And the rest is herstory, and by all accounts, the subversive work that is the Rings of Power should have been canceled, but the only reason it's still around is so Jeff Bezos won't be embarrassed. I would argue continuing to make it is more embarrassing. And of course, there's all the Access Media articles and academic research, from racially stereotyping in the works of Tolkien to a new Lord of the Rings prequel quietly confronts an uncomfortable legacy, how Amazon's The Rings of Power prequel grapples with the deeply ingrained ideas of racial difference and racial determinism in J.R.R. Tolkien's world. Or,
oh my god. Racial difference and racial determinism? Okay. The Hobbit... Okay, no. First of all, The Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring, is all about different races coming together to solve a worldwide crisis. Okay? The frickin'... The whole point of Tolkien was to show how Sauron and Saruman were corrupted by absolute power and absolute domination, which, I don't know, sounds a lot like a certain white guy with blonde hair and blue eyes from the 40s that lived in Germany. I wonder who his name was.
Or the infamous Dear Tolkien fans, Black People Exist. And who can forget this book published in 2022, Tolkien, Race, and Racism in Middle-earth by Robert Stewart. Well, apparently everybody forgot about it considering it only has 3 reviews on Amazon.
Ouch.
And it's sitting at a 2.6 and it costs $93.43.
$93 for a book that isn't even actual canon? It's just like some dude's opinion?
Or going back to 2002 from The Guardian, Race and Race. What with the dark skin, broad faces, and dreadlocks, it's a wonder Tolkien didn't give his baddies a natural sense of rhythm, says John Yett, examining Middle-earth suspect racial undertones.
Isn't saying that racist in itself just because you're like, hey, these particular characters have broad faces and dreadlocks? You know, hey, isn't it a miracle they aren't dancing too? What the fuck are you doing?
Where he states multiple paragraphs down, perhaps I better come out and say it. The Lord of the Rings is racist. So this is nothing new under the 2 lamps, the 2 trees, or the Son of Arda. But this one takes it a step further because it's an actual course at the University of Nottingham. And that course comes off as an exploration of the actions of Robin Hood from the perspective of the Sheriff of Nottingham.
Call off Christmas.
Wait. Back that up a minute.
A step further because it's an actual course at the University of Nottingham. And that course comes off as an exploration of the actions of Robin Hood from the perspective of the Sheriff of Nottingham.
Okay, so there is an actual course at an actual university that is studying the actions of Robin Hood from the perspective of the sheriff. In a university. Wouldn't this be better suited to, like, a unit in high school? Like, not even a full unit. Like, a project in a unit Like, if you are reading Robin Hood in high school, you know, you have an essay or something. Write an essay from the perspective of the Sheriff of Nottingham. How can you make an entire goddamn course out of that? No wonder they're bringing Tolkien into it. They have no other material.
Call off Christmas.
Once again from the Telegram, and we got to give them a little credit here on this headline, students shall not pass unless they accept Lord of the Rings is offensive. University course suggests Tolkien's treatment of evil characters follows a tradition of anti-African antipathy. A university is teaching students that J.R.R. Tolkien demonizes people of color in the Lord of the Rings books.
It's color, not couleur. It's not a French word.
A history module called Decolonizing Tolkien and Others, taught at the University of Nottingham, uses a text that says orcs and other dark-skinned characters in the trilogy are the victims of ethnic chauvinism.
What? What? Orcs and other evil characters that are dark-skinned are ethnic chauvinism. Isn't chauvinism specifically to do with, like, a sexist ideal? I'm confused.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Dr. Onyeka Nubia, a historian and writer who leads the module, who's made plenty appearances on the BBC, and has put forth the narrative that medieval England had towns and cities as diverse as modern London, which is absurd, argues that Eastern races in the fictional realm of Middle-earth are depicted as evil, while fairer-skinned peoples of the West are shown as virtuous.
I'm sorry, what about the Wood Elves? I don't think the Wood Elves are very dark. And Morgoth, who was Sauron, by the way, was a white dude.
I mean, except for all the fairer-skinned peoples who weren't so virtuous,
right?
Like dwarves who were not evil but could be famous assholes, like the petty dwarf Mim who betrayed Túrin, or the dwarves that killed Thingol. And yes, despite what Amazon and their paid shills will say about dwarves, generally they're considered fair yet ruddy. And as far as elves are concerned, there's Feanor, whose actions led to the burning of the ships, and the kinslaying, which was the first time elves killed other elves. The sons of Feanor, who killed a lot of elves, or Meglin, who betrayed Gondolin to Morgoth. Then
Menglin, listen to that.
Killed other elves. The sons of Feanor, who killed a lot of elves, or Meglin, who betrayed...
Meglin, okay? Meglin, a fair-skinned elf. Now, this is let's take a second to break down that name, okay? Meglin. Okay? Mengele. Meglin, Mengele.
Betrayed Gondolin to Morgoth. Then there's the Men of the West. Where do I even start? Maybe with the Númenóreans, who were sacrificing humans to Morgoth. The Black Númenóreans, and no, they weren't black. And they were, deep in the past, oppressive rulers of realms like Umbar and Harad. Put simply, it wasn't black and white. There was a lot of...
He's quite right there. It literally was not black and white. The whole point of Tolkien and making this a fantasy world with elves and orcs and dwarves and goblins and such like was to point out that evil exists anywhere you go, and it needs to be put down anywhere you go, whether it be in a trench in Germany or in the fires of Mount Doom. If the world is in peril, you need to fix it.
A lot of moral complexity to Tolkien's works, and not every fair-skinned character was virtuous. And that's just scratching the surface. Now, obviously, I'm no Tolkien scholar or expert. I'm just a fan. But imagine if a real scholar or even a hardcore lorehead took this clown's course. It'd be hilarious. In reference to decolonizing Tolkien in academia, decolonizing usually means re-examining or moving away from white Western viewpoints. So let me get this straight, Dr. Onyeka Nubia. You want to move away from the white Western viewpoint of Professor John Ronald Reuel Tolkien, an Englishman who wanted to write a mythology for England from his English viewpoint. I mean...
Yeah. Let's move away from the white Western viewpoint of this work by a Western white man, written specifically basing his world on the mythos of the Celts and the fucking Saxons and the fucking... Oh my god. Oh my lord.
I mean, by all means, move away from it. But why would you want to waste your time doing that? Well, because it's not about re-examining, or decolonizing. It's about deconstructing, to state the obvious, because somehow the academics got it in their brains that you can fight discrimination with discrimination. But it doesn't end there. In the module's core text, Dr. Onyeka writes that maligned peoples include Easterlings, Southrons, and men from Harad.
Easterlings, Southrons, and men from Harad.
The trilogy also features the dark-skinned orcs, evil creatures that do the bidding of Sauron, known as the Dark Lord. Now,
Okay, again, Sauron was a white guy. Also, the Uruk-hai were fucking not supposed to be dark. They were white orcs made by the White Wizard.
Now, the article says the trilogy, and I certainly hope you're not talking about the Peter Jackson films as much as they are the greatest trilogy ever made. They are not the most accurate adaptation of the professor's work. So are you just focusing on the Lord of the Rings books, leaving out The Hobbit, The Silmarillion, The Children of Hurin, The Fall of Gondolin, The Lost Tales, etc.? Yes, armies of Easterlings and Harad fought for Sauron, and yes, their complexions matched the regions they lived in because Tolkien accounted for that. You know who also fought for Sauron? The aforementioned fair race of the Númenóreans, some of whom became the Nazgul. But
Facts. The Ringwraiths are all Númenórean, and they are all white dudes. So fuck off.
as far as orcs are concerned, they're creatures who are humanoid, but not human, with mostly sallow skin. So I don't care what background you're from. If you see them as black people, you told on yourself. The orcs slash goblins were created by Morgoth slash Melkor as a mockery of the elves.
Literally, exactly. This is so... If you go and you read anything that Tolkien has written down, you would know that these are not black people or black... Like, I don't... Like, there's... Oh, anytime somebody says orcs are supposed to represent black people, I get really angry because... Those people are at the same time telling me and other Lord of the Rings fans that we are racist. And then they go, but you know, orcs are supposed to be black people. It's like, do you hear yourself? Do you hear? You may as well be fucking Carter Pewterschmidt when he goes to pick up, when he goes on a date, when he goes with Peter to get a date, and he's like, excuse me, boy. And everyone's like, what the fuck, dude? And he's like, what? Yeah, like, you just... Jesus. Are you people hearing yourselves?
Who were created, along with everything else, by the one true god Eru Ilúvatar, who are described by J.R.R. Tolkien in the often cited, for multiple reasons, Letter 210, a letter discussing a film treatment to Forrest J. Ackerman. They are or were squat, broad, flat-nosed, sallow-skinned with wide mouths and slant eyes.
Sallow skin with wide mouths and slant eyes. Yeah, that sure sounds like black people to me, you racist assholes.
Degraded and repulsive versions of the two Europeans' least lovely Mongol types. Now, the important bit there before he says Mongols is two Europeans. That is Tolkien acknowledging that wasn't probably the nicest thing. So if anybody has a beef, it's the Asians. But if we're going to be judging things from history and we're going to say Mongol, that would be from Mongolia, say Genghis Khan, which means about 0.5% of the male population of planet Earth could be offended by that remark.
Yeah, pretty much. And he's not even saying that he thinks these people are bad. He goes, two Europeans. You know,
Genghis was quite a big murderer.
It was quite murdery. He was a bit murdery.
He did 34 million. There's another
was a bit murdery.
Call it rapey.
A remark made in 1958. Many will make that the underlying thesis of
I like him.
Tolkien and all of his works being racist. But that is the deliberately disingenuous argument you will get from modern academics, particularly when it comes to Tolkien. Judging a man's perspective from the early to mid 20th century, that was completely acceptable, by the way, on modern day standards and having to dig to find something, while completely ignoring all the times that J.R.R. Tolkien said he was against things like racial doctrine and those National Socialists.
Gee, I wonder why he named an elf very similarly to one of the most terrible Nazi doctors in history.
But the professor shouldn't feel alone because Dr. Onyeka Nubia also went after C.S. Lewis, Milton, and Shakespeare. But again, this is just the latest salvo against the good professor from the disingenuous and evil academics. But this reminds me of the worst case of betrayal, the Tolkien Society. Harkening back to their seminar in 2021, coincidentally, a year before The Rings of Power came out, so I'm sure this was a coincidence that they had seminars like this. Gondor in Transition, a brief introduction to transgender realities. And
Say what? The Tolkien Society did that shit?
The Lord of the Rings. Not sure how they managed to get a 30-minute seminar out of something that wasn't a reality anywhere.
Right? Where was there any transgender anything in The Lord of the Rings?
Within the works of the devout Catholic professor.
What is this new devilry?
And yes, these are real, from the real Tolkien Society, an educational charity and literary society devoted to the study and promotion of the life and works of the author, established in 1969.
And these people thought it was appropriate to be like, let's do a thing about transitioning Gondorians. What the friggity frack?
But wait! There's more!
The Problem of Pain, portraying physical disability in the fantasy of J.R.R. Tolkien, The Invisible Other, Tolkien's Dwarf Women, and the Feminine Lack.
Oh, fuck off! They're dwarf women! Also, the portrayal of physical disability in The Lord of the Rings. What the fuck? Who cares? Who cares? It's a fantasy story. Oh no! There were no blind people in the Fellowship of the Ring. I'm so upset now. There wasn't a blind wizard in the fucking Wizards of the Colors. Oh no, I'm going to throw myself in front of a car. Fuck you guys.
Projecting Indian myths, culture, and history onto Tolkien's worlds. Philosophy, indigeneity, identity, and anti-racism. We're atheists, agnostics, and animists. Oh my. Or how about this one? Something mighty queer, destabilizing cis-hetero anonormativity in the works of Tolkien.
What?
What the fuck?
This might be my favorite. Pardoning Saruman, the queer in Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. For those of
Pardoning Sauron? The what in the what?
queer, destabilizing cis-hetero anonormativity in the works of Tolkien.
What?
This might be my favorite. Pardoning Saruman, the queer in Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. For those
Pardoning Saruman. This is I've had enough. I've had enough. This is awful. And shame on anybody that considers themselves to be a fan or have read Lord of the Rings that then turns around and goes, I'm an activist and I want to project my crazy bullshit onto Lord of the Rings. Why does everything have to go back to your activism? Like, seriously, why? Why can't you be a gay person or a trans person who also likes Lord of the Rings and understands that there aren't any trans people in that story because that's just not what it needs? Like, why is this something that we can't do? Why can't somebody in a wheelchair read a book about somebody that goes rock climbing and go, oh, that's a really cool story? What? Like, I want to go rock climbing! Yes, I understand. You're upset that you can't go rock climbing. I'm sorry. But wasn't it a good story? Well, yeah. Well, what happened to that? I don't understand. I really don't understand why we're doing this to amazing works of literature. Like, why do we have to pull apart Mark Twain for the fact that we have Jim? You're like, okay, so his name's Nigger Jim. What? That's how it's written. What do you want from me? What do you, like, do you think, Mark Twain was not a guy who was for, like, slavery and shit like that. That is why he wrote about things like that. like slavery. That is why he wrote about the two carpetbaggers that sold Jim back to the Phelpses. That is why he wrote the Connecticut Yankee. That's why he did all this shit. The same reason Tolkien wrote it. Oh my god, these people need to just either stop reading books or here's a better idea. Get some therapy, not from therapists that will suck you off and tell you you're right all the time, from actual therapists that will work you through your trauma and your I don't know what the hell is wrong with you that makes you read your victim complex onto everything that you see. Oh, look, there's a train. That poor train. It must have something wrong with it. Oh, look, there's a bird. Quick, that bird is oppressed somehow. Like, go get some help, and then when you've gotten your help, pick the books back up and start enjoying the stories. I guarantee you, when you stop putting your bullshit into actual wonderfully written books, you will enjoy them a hell of a lot more than you're doing it right now. Once you stop putting and projecting your trans, your racism, your sexism, your anything onto every piece of media you consume, and you start enjoying the piece of media for what it is, I guarantee you life will look a lot better, and a lot more of you will not have to be taking all of the antidepressants you're swallowing. And I'm not saying that antidepressants aren't helpful. I'm saying that maybe if you guys actually did some therapy and worked through your problems and didn't see everything as a problem, you wouldn't need as many of them. Have a wonderful day, you wonderful people. I will see you in the next one.